Hello and welcome to the latest episode of Let's Talk ABM with me, Declan, CMO of account-based marketing agency Strategic ABM. ABM is one of the hottest B2B strategies right now, helping companies to win, grow and retain their most important accounts. This podcast allows me to spend some time talking to account-based marketing leaders about their ABM programs and share their insights with other B2B marketers, wherever you are on your ABM journey. So today I'm joined by Matt Kent, who's the Senior Marketing Manager for UK and Ireland at Pega Systems. Matt, thanks for joining us today.
Oh, you're welcome, Declan. Nice to be part of this.
So we're going to spend 15, 20 minutes talking about account-based marketing, and I know you've been doing it there at Pega Systems for at least a couple of years now. Can you talk us a little bit about Pega Systems and why you thought that ABM was the right strategy for you to implement?
Yeah, absolutely. Delighted to. So Pega Systems, or Pega for short, if you're not familiar with us, we're a software as a service company founded in 1983 out of Cambridge, Massachusetts, in the USA. And what do we do? Well, essentially, we're a software as a service company that creates solutions to help large, complex organizations crush complexity. That's one of our new strap lines. So in essence, what that means is, we help the world's largest companies make better decisions about how they interact with their customers and internally, how they get work done, and most importantly, how they can stay ahead in a fast-changing world. Why ABM for Pega? Well, I think Pega is right for account-based marketing. Why? Well, I think why is that? Because principally, well, firstly, who do we look to do business with? So as I mentioned just now, we look to do business with the world's largest, most complex organizations. And when you're selling the kind of software that we do, typically the average order value is high six-figure dollar amount. And because of what we sell in the average order value, the people that we need to market to, engage, influence, and convince to buy Pega tends to be quite a large group of senior individuals. And to my mind, all of those factors mean that account-based marketing is an absolutely perfect approach for Pega in terms of what we're trying to do.
And obviously there, Matt, you started with a pilot program at Pega. Can you talk us through what that looked like and what success you've had to date?
Yeah, so account-based marketing takes various forms. I think if you've done the ITSMA training and certification, like I have, and a number of my colleagues at Pega have now done, they talk a lot about strategic or one-to-one ABM, also one-to-few or cluster ABM. For us, ABM started really around supporting what we call must-win deals. So deals that sales leaders have called out as being pivotal to success of our business that quarter or that year. So for us, our first steps into ABM focus really on what I would call pursuit marketing or deal-based marketing. So defining a clear marketing budget to provide marketing support to the progression of those opportunities, leveraging account-based marketing principles where we could. That started probably in earnest about 18 months ago, I would say, because we were kind of doing it in one shape or another in the UK. And our work in that area was deemed to be successful, and that's now turned into a global program. So for us, it really started with supporting must-win deals through pursuit-based marketing using account-based marketing principles.
And that pilot program, how long did that actually last for the pilot program?
Yeah, it's turned into a fully fledged global program now. So every year there is a sizable budget dedicated to it. And it's something that we continue to do. In fact, it's predominantly how we measure marketing's impact to the business in terms of what percentage of those must-win deals are we supporting? And there's a whole raft of metrics behind the scenes with regards to how are we supporting, what tactics are we deploying, and are those activities over a sustained period of time contributing to the velocity of the deal, the value of the deal, and our win rate. So it's grown from being a pilot in the UK to being a fully fledged global program with its own budget.
And obviously, we talk a lot about ABM and the need for that kind of alignment between marketing teams and sales teams. And in fact, ABM is that kind of great unifier between those two teams, and it unifies around the language of accounts. What's your experience there with sales, bringing sales along this journey with you, this ABM journey?
So I think, yes, I'm steeped in all of the ITSMA content and training. And I think one of the mistakes that ABMers can make is to almost rely too much on the principles, the academic side of account-based marketing, and to talk the language of account-based marketing to a sales organization that either haven't been exposed to account-based marketing in the past, or frankly don't care. They just see it as marketing. So I think, in answer to your question, really, I think one of the things that we've tried to do as an organization is to try to demystify marketing, or demystify account-based marketing. So, we're not necessarily talking about tactics, we're talking about business outcomes. So when we started when we rolled out our global program about supporting must-win deals, we, instead of talking about tactics, we aligned tactics to stages of the sales cycle. So Pega has its own sales stages, like most technology companies do. They have their own names. And so what we would do is, when we collaborated with the sales leaders on defining kind of what those must-win deals look like by country, by industry, we would look at the deal stage that the opportunity was in, and off the shelf, we knew exactly what we could do at that stage of the opportunity to help progress things along. It's not always foolproof, but it was a very rigorous methodology, so that we weren't kind of starting from scratch every time that we started work with the account team on that must-win deal. So I think demystifying what account-based marketing is to sales, not using marketing terms that are known outside, that are probably not well known outside of marketing, but also aligning kind of what you can offer to the business in a way that everyone inside the business, when I say the business, I'm talking sales, I'm talking sales operations, sales effectiveness, in a way that they can understand and appreciate.
So in terms of the sales leaders and the sales teams, I imagine they're very, very positive now in terms of the response that they're having, what they're seeing in terms of the ABM campaigns, that alignment now between sales and marketing, you've achieved that. Yeah,
so with our approach to supporting must-win deals, I mean, absolutely, account teams, they're never going to turn down attention from marketing, or indeed budget. But I think one of the things that we as ABMers need to do is that there has to be conditions. I don't know if conditions is the right word, but marketing shouldn't be seen as a piggy bank for account teams to raid just because they can. So one of the things we've tried to do is that once we've agreed which must-win deals we can support, there's a whole raft of criteria that we look to establish from the outset. What do I mean by criteria? So is their close plan regularly updated? Is the close plan, is it being fed into by the extended cross-functional team? Do they have the right cadence in place for that must-win deal? So are there regular meetings going on where all parties are involved? So there are things that, there are gates that we try to force account teams through to justify that investment. And I think once we've got through those gates and we're satisfied that, the account team are committing just as much as we are, it's so important that we respond at speed and effectively. So I think one of the lessons that I've learned about working with sales is, when you're taking them on an account-based marketing journey, you can't be having hours and hours of workshops with them, and then there being a considerable delay to actually getting into execution mode. So when it comes to our account-based marketing playbook, a lot of those things that we've defined that we can support, depending on what stage of the sales cycle you're at, are things that we know that we can almost grab off the shelf, that we can do quickly and deliver to account teams effectively. So time to market around anything in account-based marketing is vital.
Well, you've hit on a couple of points there, actually, Matt. It reminds me of the conversation I had with Krista Norton over at Capita around their ABM program, and she talked very much about that level of contract or commitment between the sales and marketing teams, that it was a mutual relationship where both parties had to agree on certain things that they would do in order for each account to justify that level of investment in account-based marketing. So it seems like Pega and Capita are very aligned in their ABM thinking. Actually, just one point you mentioned there as well, Matt, time to market. You mentioned time to market is key. Now, obviously, sales are very used to moving very quickly. They're very used to working on multiple deals at the same time. I'm guessing there with that time to market has been key for your ABM program and on how you're supporting the sales team. I'm guessing that the sales guys won't wait months and months for you to roll out a program, deploy all the assets, etc.
No, absolutely not. I think, so I talked about how we've rolled out our ABM playbook for supporting must-win deals. And in the past 6 months, we've actually pivoted, probably isn't the right word, but we've kind of supplemented that with strategic or one-to-one ABM. What do I mean by that? So for those of you who look at any kind of content that come out of ITSMA, to me, good strategic or one-to-one ABM is about taking very, very much a long-term view. And with your account, it's not just let's build a 3-month plan and go and execute and see how we got on 3 months later. That might work for some organizations who are selling, whose propositions are more commoditized, who are they're quicker to sell, involve a smaller decision-making unit. But for us, we've kind of said we've supplemented our deal-based work with one-to-one ABM. But one-to-one ABM, if you're trying to sell to an account team, look, we believe in your account. We've done the due diligence. We feel like your account is ripe for ABM, and we want to take you on a journey. One of the first things you've got to do is you've got to be very clear from the outset with the account team about what's the journey you're taking them on, how you're trying to deliver that in phases. And I think most importantly, one of the lessons that I learned is be very clear from the start what inputs you need from the account team in terms of documentation, their time, attendance at meetings with your agency or agencies you're working with. But marry that with what are the outputs? What do they get as a result of their time investment? And how would you delineate that through the various phases of whatever account-based marketing program you're deploying? So I think ABM will always be, it's highly complex. It's not easy, but it's highly worthwhile. And I think when you're taking account teams on this journey for the first time, it all starts, or the good foundation of that is being very clear about it is a big commitment. It's not just 30 minutes of your time once a month. Depending on what you're doing, it could be 2 or 3 hours a week to whatever program you've got in place with that account team. And we are going to need, input from you. But you will reap the rewards with all this great stuff that's going to come down the line that we just know is going to help you better engage with the people that you need to inside your account.
So let's talk a little bit about, you mentioned a couple of things there around the success of your programs there. Let's talk about ROI and ABM. Can you talk us through some of the things that you look to measure there in any of your ABM programs?
Yeah, so we very much follow ITSMA's methodology of around the 3 R's. So revenue, reputation, and relationships. There are so many people in the ABM community that I follow, whose presentations that I've watched, whose webinars I've seen. I won't name them on this video, but it's a pretty common way of tracking and measuring kind of your ABM efforts. So, and at Pega, we're not short of data. We are blessed to have an array of great data at our disposal. So in terms of ROI, given what we sell and who we sell to, ultimately revenue is the thing that we want, right? But revenue doesn't always come within the space of weeks and months. So good ABM is taking a long-term approach, particularly one-to-one or strategic ABM. So whilst we've got a range of measures around revenue with regards to new pipeline created, pipeline influenced, deal velocity, deal value, win rate, what's really vital for those who are embarking on their ABM journey is to think about measures around relationships and reputation as being leading indicators of what you hope to see in terms of returns around revenue further down the line. So when it comes to relationships, we look at things like how many contacts do we have in the account? How many of those contacts are up to date? How many of those contacts are engaging with us through marketing channels, through sales channels? In Pega, every account team has to classify a range of contacts in their account as being what we call top contacts. So typically people who are the most senior, the most influential, who carry the most decision-making authority. So we track weekly and monthly, are we moving a needle on engagement with those top contacts? And when it comes to reputation, we look at things such as web traffic. Are we seeing an increase in visits to our website from the people in that account as a result of our activity? Are they engaging with more of our content? Are they attending more of our webinars? Are they registering for Pega World Inspire, which takes place every May or June? So I think it boils down to looking at what data is available to you in your organization, aligning those measures and metrics, KPIs, whatever you want to call them, to the 3 Rs, and making sure that you've got a great kind of scorecard in place from day one, so that you can report the successes of what you're doing and be sure to benchmark. What do I mean by benchmarking? Well, if you're going to undertake an ABM program, be sure to capture all that data from day one, so that 3 months later, 6 months later, 12 months later, or however frequently you want to revisit and review kind of progress, that you can compare that start to end performance. And I said, I think doing that regularly in terms of measuring how you're performing, communicating that with all the internal stakeholders that you should be engaging with in your organization is vital.
Yeah, I think I'd concur around the 3 Rs. It's definitely something that we also use ourselves on our own ABM programs. And I think you're also right, the way that you define the reputational relationships as being those kind of early indicators of the revenue that will come down the road somewhat. And obviously you can see that those are ticking up in terms of building out that relationship and that DMU and that buying committee, and obviously the relationships and the reputation growing within those accounts. Then you will then have a knock-on effect of the revenue then coming thereafter. So let's just talk a little bit about the building blocks of an ABM program and how you see it there at Pega. Obviously, ICP, account selection, value proposition, account experience, etc. Where would you say that you spend most of your time there, Matt?
For me, account selection is huge. Pega, we have a fairly defined target account list globally. It doesn't go into the thousands. It's in the high hundreds. So compared to a number of our competitors and other IT organizations, that's probably quite a low number. Even still, that doesn't deter us from being rigorous and methodical when it comes to look at all the accounts that we could do account-based marketing to, and trying to use as much data as we can to review things like engagement, review pipeline, review web visits to our accounts, and we use a pretty rigorous methodology to begin to score those accounts. So I think it's called the GE McKinsey matrix, and it's something that ITSMA would advocate. But we look at every eligible account along 2 criteria. So first is about business strength. Are we in a good position as an organization to land and expand in an organization or to win that opportunity? And we also look at account attractiveness. So whilst we have a clearly defined target account list, not every account is going to be attractive at that point in time. So again, we use a range of data that's available to us to score an account based on those two things: business strength and account attractiveness. Some of those scores are objective. It's fact. We pull data out of our CRM system. Some of that is subjective. Some of those scores are determined by speaking to people. But needless to say, once you've scored your accounts on those two criteria, it then gives you an opportunity which to plot accounts that are eligible for ABM onto a 6-grid matrix. So if anyone's familiar with the G McKinsey matrix, they'll know what I mean. But essentially, if you want to count in the top left, it means you've scored pretty highly on those two criteria. And it's almost like a no-brainer to invest in ABM. Whereas if in the bottom right, you're thinking, well, ABM, as I mentioned, it's not an insignificant undertaking. Maybe that account's not right just now for ABM support. And if your account's been plotted somewhere in the middle, again, maybe look back at the data and say, well, what things could the account team be doing over the next kind of few weeks and months to better position, get a better score and better position their account more prominently. And in my experience, when we've kind of gone through that exercise and had those discussions with sales leaders, it's undisputable. Yes, they'll always try to find holes in the data where they can, or question some of the subjective data points you've captured. But it really empowers us as ABMers to have those critical discussions about where should we be investing, not as a marketing organization, but as a business.
And talking about business, what's been the impact on the wider business there at Pega in terms of the ABM program outside of sales and marketing? Has the impact of your programs there been noted at the C-suite level?
So absolutely. So our chief marketing officer is fully on board, and not just our chief marketing officer, but also our relatively new president of client engagement. So for us, I talked about there's two forms of account-based marketing we undertake around deal-based marketing through our ABM playbook, and increasingly so strategic or one-to-one ABM. So when it comes to success, our chief marketing officer reported that, I can't give you the exact number, but let's say a very high percentage of the deals that we support with our account-based marketing playbook close. So the lesson is, if you've got a must-win deal and you're not benefiting from account-based marketing, you stand a lesser chance of closing that deal. So really, it's a huge call to action to our sales team about, if you've got a must-win deal and you're not engaging with marketing, you're missing out. And as talked about, we're kind of venturing into one-to-one ABM right now, and it's going to vary company to company. It depends on what your business objectives are and what challenges you're seeing in your accounts across the board. But our first steps into one-to-one ABM are focusing really about executive engagement. Like most technology companies, you're looking to market and sell high up in those organizations. So for us, where we are right now with our ABM is around, how do we arm our account teams with the insight and the content and the tactics they need to start engaging with and foster relationships with the people that matter inside their organizations. So that's the strategy. How do we measure it? Well, for us, we measure it by, again, I talked about top contacts. So the people in our accounts that account teams have called out as being, here are the most senior and influential decision makers. And over time, as we kind of execute our ABM programs, we are looking at, are we moving the needle on the number of contacts, on engagement with those contacts, on the number of meetings we're having? Because if you do all those things correctly and you're seeing an uplift in those metrics, then surely only good things will happen as a result of that given time.
Yeah. So finally, Matt, what advice would you give anybody who's looking to start an ABM program, or they're in the early stages of rolling out an ABM strategy, and they're looking to see how they can fine tune it or how to enhance some of the outcomes? What advice would you give?
Yeah, I think it's two or three things. Firstly, I don't think there's much you can do. You've either got it or you don't. But I think you've got to have a curiosity. You've got to have a passion for ABM. What does that mean, and what recommendations would I give? So, when I started on this journey 2.5 years ago, there's quite a strong and growing ABM community out there. And I reached out to peers of mine on LinkedIn who worked for other tech companies, companies that we partner with, the likes of Atos and Accenture, and also some of our competitors. I found that when reaching out to some of those people through LinkedIn, they're very keen to tell you about what they're doing, what they've learned, what's worked well for them, and that's really nice to see, actually. So be curious, connect with people, connect with peers, learn from them. Attend as many webinars as you can about the subject. I keep mentioning ITSMA, but there are some great, they do some great webinars, there's some great content they put out there. But also, some agencies, there's some great content agencies producing out there. So have an open mind, suck in as much content as you can. But I think once you've done that, you've then got to look at all that insight and content through the lens of your own organization. What do I mean by that? Well, you've got to think about, here's what's going on outside of our business, but given what we're trying to achieve, given how we go to market, given what we sell, how would I begin to apply those learnings to my own organization? I think so often it's tempting for people to say, here's what good looks like over here. Isn't this great? And I think as a marketer, as an ABMer, we should be empowered to, to start discussions or drive discussions in our own organizations by thinking about, what does that really mean? How would we go about doing that? Where would we start? How would we measure it? So I think, being curious, networking as much as you can. And I think in terms of if you're starting on an ABM program or thinking about doing it, I think, a good place to start is to start small. It's a bit of a cliche, but I think, start small with an account team or a sales team that are committed, that have a proven track record. Have they been successful in the past? Are they willing to commit the time needed to account-based marketing? So start small with an account or set of accounts or an industry team, and be very clear from day one about what does success look like. How are you going to measure success according to the 3 R's of revenue, reputation, relationships? And finally, I mentioned quite a lot of things here. There's a lot of lessons that we've learned over the last couple of years. I think stakeholder engagement would probably be number 1, number 2 for me in terms of the things that I would encourage people to think about. Yes, it's all well and good sharing your successes internally within your own marketing organization, but to truly get buy-in, to truly secure future investment, when you've got successes, even if they're little, even if it's just a bit of anecdotal feedback from a client, from an account executive, share that. Account-based marketing, it's a long-term approach, and don't wait for 6 months to start sharing your successes, your learnings. Do it as soon as you've got it. So quite a few there, Dec, but I think hopefully that's helped. There's a lot that I've learned, and I'm just passionate to share my learnings with other people out there.
Well, I think that word passion, Matt, it's definitely come throughout the whole of this our chat over the course of the last 20 minutes or so. I think that's some really great advice to end on. And I think what you said there around starting small, I think is critical. A pilot program, we highly recommend that. Getting, as you said, sharing good news, because obviously it's a marathon, it's a journey. So sharing that good news as and when it comes in is really important, and that stakeholder engagement as well. I think you've cited some really good advice for anyone who's actually looking to start their ABM journey, or who are on the early stages. Yeah. Matt, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you today. Thanks for all your time, and hope everything goes well there at Pega.
Thank you very much. Great chatting to you.
Thanks, Matt.
All the best. Thanks.
If you enjoyed this episode of Let's Talk ABM, be sure to subscribe so you're notified when a new episode is posted. Feel free to rate and review this podcast. Thanks so much for listening.